Hey nerds, and welcome to the Season 4 premiere of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Theories and Conspiracies. I'm Brian from Good Nerd Bad Nerd. So we finally pick up where we left off with Quake on the run, with the team in kind of a strange disarray with Coulson no longer in control, and we get to meet Ghost Rider, who had been teased all summer with the posters at San Diego Comic-Con, with footage being slowly released leading up to the premiere. And we get all of that, plus some hints at other things that are to come. So first, just the state of the team. Coulson and Mac are busy hunting down new enhanced individuals and Inhumans. They keep saying that they've been up in the air for 6 weeks, a record for the bus, which is impressive, all things considered. But it seems like Coulson has been pushed back down to field agent. And we know there is a new director. We don't meet them this episode, so I'm not going to really talk about who they are. But it's interesting to figure out what has happened and who this new director is and what it means for the team. Now, next we have Gemma and Fitz. They are both at the compound. Gemma is the liaison or scientific advisor for the director, and this position, in her own words, she's doing as much as she can to keep the team together, so she's grabbing as much power as she can. We'll see if this backfires or if it's something that is actually going to work out for her. It doesn't seem like May trusts her because of what she's doing, but Gemma does kind of put all her cards on the table in their little confrontation. Fitz is kind of the same position he's always been, lab monkey, doing his stuff, making new tech. He makes an exploding pin for Mac, which is a nice shout out to James Bond gadgets, which, Mac has always loved that kind of stuff. His line about Coulson not wanting one, it's like, wouldn't you want one of these? Even his kind of his jealousy over Coulson's hand, just this side of Mac is, I think, going to be fun, and hopefully we're going to get to see Mac use the exploding pen and get more gadgets, because I think that's a nice angle for Mac to take in this, since he doesn't have powers. But so Fitz also has something else going on the side, which we'll get to in a little bit, with Dr. Radcliffe. Now, Daisy's kind of the big one. She's on the run. We didn't know why she was on the run at the end of season 3, but we do get some explanation, and it's she can't stand to see any more people that are close to her die. She's literally running from her ghosts, which is convenient since that is the title of this episode, The Ghost. And it could mean one of a few things. There's the tie-in to here where Daisy is running from the ghost of her past. There's Ghost Rider, and then there's the villain at the end. But lastly, May. She's been essentially put in a position of special forces team trainer and possibly field leader. We don't exactly know. We don't know if she was put out in the field just as kind of punishment for what she did, but she's definitely training the new field agents. So that's the state of the team at the moment. Again, we don't know who the director is or how he's going to play into all this, but he seems like a very paranoid individual, which, understanding everything that S.H.I.E.L.D. has gone through, makes sense that they would want somebody in that position who would be paranoid of it being taken over. Now, Ghost Rider. He was the big reveal for season 4 of S.H.I.E.L.D. Who is he? What's he going to be? There was some fear that Ghost Rider would be an Inhuman. I don't think that's the case. I think they made it abundantly clear, and even with things in this episode, that he is going to be more tied into the magic side of things, to Doctor Strange, and there's going to be a connection on that side of things. So I do not think he's an Inhuman, although there was some concern that they would make him an Inhuman to kind of explain it away without having to get into the magic side of things, but I don't think that's the case. So Ghost Rider, this is kind of a legacy character. There's been at least three other Ghost Riders, possibly 4 if you count the cowboy one. But traditionally, Ghost Riders are bonded or possessed by the spirit of vengeance. In Robbie's case, this actually isn't what has happened, and it took the original Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider in the comics to come and explain this to him. He actually was kind of bonded with an evil spirit of his uncle. His uncle, Eli Morrow, was a serial killer. And he bonded with him and tried to convince him that he was trying to make amends for what he did, but was slowly trying to take over Robbie and, possess his body fully. that will probably come into play at some point because they're going to be investigating what his power nature is. Because if he's not an inhuman, what is he? What kind of an enhanced individual is he? So they're going to have to figure out who he is and where he gets his power from. Now, an interesting storyline that does come up in the comics and that will most likely tie in, and I think will be a nice way to bring back a character from previous season. Robbie is trying to clean up his neighborhood. That's his goal. That's what he's doing, and that's basically what we see in the show. He's getting rid of murderers, pedophiles, characters like that. Well, in the comics, he's trying to take down a drug cartel, and when he's finally, at their base trying to take them down, their leader pops a pill, and it turns out their leader is Mr. Hyde, who we've seen before, Calvin Zabo, Calvin Johnson, Daisy's dad, played by Kyle MacLachlan. There's a really strong possibility he could come back. Nothing's been confirmed, nothing's been announced, he hasn't been seen on set, but it would be fantastic if somehow he overcame the Tahiti programming on his brain that kind of cleaned his slate, wiped his mind, and he came back and he was trying to build a power base in order to find Daisy or things like this. And this could tie into the everyone has something that they are tied to or connections, things like that. Daisy's now got to save her dad again while trying to protect him from Robbie, while trying to save Robbie from his uncle. So there's going to be a lot of family dynamic, I think, in this season. So that's all very cool stuff with Ghost Rider. Next, the LMDs and Dr. Radcliffe. I've talked about the LMDs in previous seasons because there was speculation about different characters and if they could be using life model decoys. Well, Dr. Radcliffe is creating them. He has created a prototype version that is really against the law. Him doing this is against the law, and Fitz knows it, but he wants it to be perfect before they tell Gemma, because if it's not, then the project's going to be scrapped and it's going to go away. Now, there's a lot of ways this can come up in possible storylines, whether they're going to use them in the field like Nick Fury would do with having decoys out in the field so he can do multiple things at multiple times, or most recently in the New Avengers comic, kind of a rogue SHIELD agent took over Dum Dum Dugan, who's been deceased for a bit, and he had an army of Dugans to do his bidding. So there's a possibility that we're going to kind of see this horde of LMDs at some point down the road that our agents are going to have to battle with. And the nice thing about that is they're robots. So characters with powers are really going to be able to unleash, and we're hopefully get to see a lot of spectacle of, characters kind of using their powers to their fullest and not having to pull their punches. And finally, the actual ghost, and the ghost that I think this episode's title was referring to, was the creature, the entity in that box. This is the biggest connection so far that we've had to the Doctor Strange film. And I say this because when people were being influenced by this, when they saw others, you saw that effect on their eyes is very similar to things we've seen in the Doctor Strange trailers. Doctor Strange isn't too far away, so it makes a lot of sense for this to start happening at the very beginning of the season so they can build a groundwork. So when they do kind of have that crossover, which is always a little weaker than we'd hope, but when they do have that crossover, they've laid the groundwork of what's going on with the eyes. Now, we don't really get any information about who this character could be, but there's one possibility, and that is when Dormammu, who's this big, super powerful demon, and a huge villain of Doctor Strange, when he was trapped in another dimension and he was trapped there by the cosmic entity Eternity, he sent wraith-like creatures into Earth's reality to search for Doctor Strange and kind of sap power from him. So it's possible this could be one of those wraith-like creatures that's kind of a scout or an assassin of Dormammu's. But we don't know. We don't really get too much information there, but it would be a neat tie-in not only to have Ghost Rider, who's got magic abilities, but then to also have these wraith-like creatures who are another tie-in to that magic universe. So what did you guys think? Did you think it was a strong season premiere? It didn't have as high of a viewer count as last season's premiere, but what did you think? I think people are going to be excited for this change. It's not Inhumans, it's not Hydra, It's something new, and I think that's a good move on S.H.I.E.L.D. People are speculating that the move to the 10 o'clock hour was so they could do darker stories. We will see. We'll see what happens. But I loved the VR, the CG on Ghost Rider. I'm a little nervous about the story, but hey, it's a premiere. They gotta just kind of fill us in on what's happened over the break, kind of a thing. So let me know what you thought. Leave a note in the comments below. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Facebook and catch my weekly show, Good Nerd, Bad Nerd. Until next week, guys, I'm Brian, and this has been Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Theories and Conspiracies.